good morning, and happy Monday. And welcome to another live here with me on Mission Minded Monday. I am Asia Nasir. I am the founder of Utopian Enterprise Business Solutions and nonprofit strategist, your favorite nonprofit strategist, and author of my book that you can see on here. Nonprofit doesn't mean no profit, where you can get on Amazon. So welcome back, everybody. I know this is Labor Day weekend, so people are kind of relaxing, but this is also a great opportunity, aside from the hustle and bustle that usually Monday brings, for you to just kind of tune in with me to listen to our Mission Minded Monday, which we do every other Monday, to share some great tips and solutions for aspiring nonprofits and existing nonprofits to really help them do what my mission is, and that is to fulfill your mission in real time. So welcome back, welcome, as I mentioned before, to another Mission Minded Monday, where today's topic is no different. And I think it's kind of like outside of the box. When you hear about funding, you always think about grants, donations, maybe some sponsorships from corporate donors, right? But a lot of times you don't hear that a nonprofit organization can also make money through RFPs. So today's conversation is going to be about from hidden to heard, using RFPs to amplify your nonprofit voice. So a lot of you might be thinking, yeah, I've heard of the term RFPs before, may not have heard it at all. What is an RFP? And how can this amplify my voice or my nonprofit's, voice in the community? So that's a great question. So before we get into how an RFP can assist a nonprofit in amplifying its voice and bringing visibility and awareness to your organization, let's answer the question, what is an RFP? So an RFP is basically the acronyms for request for proposal. Request for proposal. And what that basically is, it's an official invitation for your nonprofit organization to submit a proposal to provide your services or your programs, right? So when I say it's an official invitation, it's not specifically an invitation, a personal invitation to your nonprofit, but it's an invitation to all nonprofits. So when you're saying, okay, who's inviting me? So this could be a foundation, and we'll talk about that a little later. A foundation, it could be a corporation, it could be a company, or it could be a government agency. Where they're putting it out there and they're saying, hey, we are looking for said services, or we are looking for said programs, right? So it's an official invitation saying, hey, we have a need for something and your company might be able to provide that. That is where you now come in and you say, hey, they're looking for a need. They're looking for something that our nonprofit organization offers. And let's take them up on this invite. That's what an RFP is. An RFP is just a request for proposal. It is inviting nonprofit corporations or businesses, which a nonprofit is a business, to be able to propose your programs and your services, and it is funded. This is usually RFPs are not free. These are funded. This is money that has been allocated for a particular, like I said, service or program, and your organization might be able to fill that spot and to be able to get funding. So a lot of times we just look for the traditional way in which to get funding, which there's nothing wrong with that. You should be getting, applying for grants. You should be, looking for corporate sponsors and individual donations. But there are other ways in which you can do that, create funding for your organization, and RFPs is one of them. But not only does it give you funding, but as we're talking about here, it amplifies your nonprofit voice. It brings visibility and it brings an awareness. So if you're a grassroots nonprofit, you definitely want to listen to this, because this is going to help you to be able to go from, as I mentioned before, or from here, the theme of today's lesson is hidden to heard. So a lot of times when you're a nonprofit organization, especially grassroots, just getting started, a lot of people don't know who you are. They don't know what you do. So RFPs is a great way to amplify your mission, your voice, your story, and everything. So we're going to go into that. And so this is basically, an RFP is a doorway. it's a gateway for you to be able to not only obtain funding opportunities, but where you can present how your nonprofit organization is the organization that can fill a need, that can fulfill a need. So this is really, really important for, again, aspiring nonprofits or even existing nonprofits that haven't just gotten the visibility or the awareness that it could have. So let's get right into the strategies of, how RFPs can amplify, not strategies, but how RFPs amplify your voice. Because if you understand how it can help you, you're going to be more tuned into why you should be going after RFPs. And that should be part of your strategy in creating funding for your organization, as well as, bringing awareness and visibility. So let's get right into the first reason why an RFP can amplify your voice. And it's because it literally does that. It expands your reach and visibility. It expands your reach and visibility. So what this does is it puts your nonprofit, this hidden gem, right? It puts this nonprofit in the funder's radar. So whether it's a foundation, whether it's a corporation, or whether it's a government agency, now you are putting your nonprofit on its radar, an organization that they knew nothing about, didn't know existed, or what it provided. So now you're putting yourself right in their radar to like, wow, this organization is really doing some powerful things. So with that being said, what this does is just like a grant, you're not, just because you put in, you submit a proposal, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the proposal. However, the good thing about RFPs is typically these grant funders not grant funders, typically these funders, whether it's a corporation, government agency, or whatever, even if you don't win that particular proposal, they may consider you for future opportunities because, again, you're on their radar now. They see you, they know what you do, they know what you're about, they know who you service, why you service the organization, what impact you've made already because you're, providing that. And so now this allows you now to be able to kind of be on their like a mental note for them to remember you for future opportunities. So again, they didn't know who you were, and they can't support, they can't utilize, they can't take on your programs or services if they don't know that you even exist. So RFPs really kind of put you out there to people, to the agencies that can really bring an awareness and visibility and funding to your nonprofit organization. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is it positions your nonprofit, your mission, as the expert or the go-to, right? Anytime you start a nonprofit, it's because you saw that there was a need. There was something in your community that was not happening. Something that was, really, a detriment to your community, and you founded your nonprofit or established your mission in order to either diminish that or to eradicate it altogether. So that this now, when you utilize RFPs and they can see like, yeah, we're in alignment, we're in an agreement that this is a real issue in the community and we need someone to come in and fix this problem, eradicate the problem, or diminish the problem. Now your nonprofit, through your proposal, now your nonprofit is the go-to. Your nonprofit is now considered the expert. And when you are considered an expert, that brings on visibility, that brings on credibility, I should say. That brings on a credibility that every nonprofit wants to have. Because that's where funding comes in. They believe that the things that you say your organization can do, it can do. So now this highlights your programs, and how you diminish or eradicate a problem, the impact that you've already made, and how now your nonprofit can, its mission and how you do things can help this particular community or, agency to be able to align with you. This now puts you right in the spot for you to actually fulfill your mission in real time. So this is, and you can even talk about in these proposals how your organization differentiates from others. What makes your organization unique? Because let's make no mistake about it, a lot of us are doing the same thing as it relates to a mission: food insecurity, empowering the youth, illiteracy, things like that. Your organization is not the only one that's doing it. However, the way you do it may be very different, and why it's bringing the results that it brings, the impact that it has, and how the program is actually run. So now you really put yourself in a unique position to talk about how your organization stands out from the rest, and why your organization should be the community solution to this particular problem. So that is, reason number two. Reason number three, and this is really important, it opens up your door, and this is specific to organizations that are just getting started, or organizations that have been around for a long time, but you kind of hit a plateau. Who you work with who you work with, but you're wanting to expand now. You want to expand your reach, and you're just like, we're just not getting that reach that we're looking for. Here's the reason why RFPs are really good. RFPs amplifies your voice by opening doors to strategic partnership, not just partnering with anyone, but strategic partnerships. So this is where grassroots nonprofits can really open up their doors to be able to partner or collaborate with a larger, well-known nonprofit organization. So funders, when you supply these RFPs to these government agencies, these corporations, or these foundations, oftentimes they will actually share your proposal, your RFP, with other organizations that have a need for your particular programs or your services. So it doesn't just sit with that particular, RFP, or that, entity that's asking for it. Sometimes, because people network, people talk, it allows them to say, hey, you know what, we actually got an RFP from someone that I think could, you're talking about, you need this service, I think they can really help you. And they share your proposal. So now you are collaborating, and now you're, partnering side by side with an organization that has, visibility, awareness, and now they're bringing visibility and awareness to your nonprofit organization. So this allows you to, be able to really show that, look, if a large corporation or a large, fellow or peer nonprofit feels like our programs and our services is worth collaborating with, now it brings, again, that, wow, why shouldn't we work with this organization? Or maybe we should, or we've overlooked them in the past, and now you're able again to fulfill your mission in real time. And so this expands your influence. This expands your influence. This brings about bigger results and impact that you can use for your grant applications that you're going to be providing, or for corporate sponsorships, because they want to know what's the impact that you're making. Now you've made an impact on the larger level because you've collaborated with another organization. So this could include coalitions. This could include community initiatives, like larger community initiatives that sometimes get media press and things like that. Now your organization is right there in the thick of it, right amongst them, getting the same, spotlight on your organization and the programs that you serve. So collaboration is key. So just because you don't necessarily win that particular RFP, there are still other opportunities that you can gain, one of which they can share your RFP with a larger nonprofit organization that's looking for, your programs and services. So last reason why RFPs can really help you amplify your voice is it strengthens your sustainability and your storytelling. It strengthens your storytelling and sustainability. And you're going to ask yourself, well, how? Well, when you're writing these RFPs, it's sharpening your ability to articulate your mission. It helps you to articulate why you're here. Who do you help? Why? What's the reason? What's the cause, right? The demographics and who you serve, right? So it's answering the who, what, where, when, and why. All of these different things that any funder or any grant writer wants to know, or a corporate sponsor. A lot of times you'll find, especially when you're grassroots, when someone asks you, well, tell me a little bit about your organization. A lot of times you'll sit up here and you'll answer and you start fumbling. You start kind of rambling on about what you do. And here's 5 minutes in and you're still talking, and the other person really doesn't have a clear understanding of what your organization is all about. So when you're practicing your RFPs, is sharpening your tools to be able to articulate that in a way that is undeniable about what your organization is all about. So by the time you get to a grant application, it's just like, you know, batting your eye, drinking water, whatever, brushing your teeth is something that you could do, with your eyes closed. It's the same thing that would happen with a grant application, or even speaking and networking. You have become accustomed to being able to explain what you do in a very clear and concise manner. So again, this prepares you for future grant applications, which you're going to be doing throughout the year anyway, but this sharpens your ability to be able to answer those questions in a way that grant funders are now going to be taking note about what it is that you do. So being able to tell your story is extremely important. Nonprofit, for those successful nonprofit organizations, it's because they know how to tell their story. And we know those organizations, the St. Jude's, they tell those stories in a way that tugs at your heart, makes you want to support. ASPCA, for the animal lovers like myself, it really tugs at you because they know how to tell a story from beginning to end. They show the before, they show the after, the impact that their organization makes. And by your donation, it expands their reach to be able to do more. And that's what RFPs does. It allows you to continue to hone in on being able to show where your organization comes in and the impact that you've made thus far, and how you can continue to further your reach by this RFP, and them granting you this RFP. So it really helps you to hone in on your writing skills and your articulation skills about your organization. So you may be asking yourself now, well, where the heck do I find an RFP? Who gives out RFPs? So as I was mentioning before, it's government agencies, foundations, and even corporate businesses. So government agencies, they have on the local, state, and federal level. So like on grant.gov, a lot of those grants are federal grants. They'll say that. Some will say grant, some will say RFP. It'll specifically say RFP. So you can go on there in your state to be able to see who, or in your local area, who's asking for an RFP. Even municipalities, if you go to your local municipality in your township or your county or whatever, you can actually go on their website, and their website will have a section for RFPs. And sometimes they're inviting businesses to come in to provide a service to the community. So that's where you can find that. Also, too, if you're banking with a particular bank, banks should, because each bank has an obligation, a federal obligation to reinvest in the community in which it has its branches. So there typically is some type of corporate social responsible person, community relationships, officer or something like that, where the banks will actually put out in their mission to being able to collaborate with nonprofit organizations in the community. They'll have RFPs seeking for nonprofits that provide particular services and programs that they can partner with. So imagine if you were banking with your local bank. Imagine the visibility that it can bring. Even community banks, credit unions, they're in your community, and people have a great respect, and they're like, well, if this bank, they have a great respect and reputation in the community, this bank is collaborating with this nonprofit organization, hey, maybe I should take a look at this nonprofit, right? Or if you're banking with the bigger banks like the Chases and the B of A's and things like that, and they're, utilizing your organization to work with their community reinvestment officer or community, relationships person, that's going to hold big to your community and the visibility and awareness. So when you're pitching for those local businesses to support your organization, like, oh, I remember them. They partnered with, the local bank, or, the bank in our community. So RFPs, with your local banks. And if you're not sure, ask the branch manager or the assistant manager in your particular branch who they can speak to as it relates to that as a nonprofit organization. And last but not least, private and family foundations are also ones that a lot of times they'll put out that they want to specifically support a particular program or a particular, mission. And that's where they'll put out an RFP for, inviting nonprofit organizations to be able to share their programs and the services. And corporations, companies, banks is a corporation, but other companies too. Sometimes they're looking for a particular service. They're looking to partner with a particular nonprofit organization to provide services for their employees, or to partner with their employees, because they're looking. So it's not just a bank, but other companies, they have philanthropic, side to their business, where they believe, where while they're making money, they want to give back to the community. And sometimes they're very specific about what type of missions they want to support and who they're aligned with. And your nonprofit organization could be just the organization that they're looking for. So that is what I wanted to share with you today on this Labor Day Monday, on, being hidden to heard. And that is how using RFPs to amplify your voice in the community. So take one of these, sit down and think about it, which one you want to go after. Is it a government agency? Is it a corporation? Maybe starting with your bank might be a good one, because you already have a relationship with them. But kind of take a look at what direction you want to go and utilize that. If you haven't started your annual strategic planning for 2026, this is a great time to do so, and include this as part of your business plan or your strategy for 2026, to include now RFPs to, again, amplify your voice, bring visibility and awareness to your organization. And as far as the sustainability, this allows you, because as I mentioned before, these RFPs are not free. They actually provide some funding along with this. So this allows you to be able to utilize those funds to further your mission. So as I mentioned before, thank you for tuning in to our Mission Minded Monday here, which we do every other week. If you have questions, or you need to know more information about how you can apply for RFPs, or need some assistance in being able to, draft a proposal, you can reach me, and I'm going to put my email here in minutes. And there it is. So that's my email address, Utopian Enterprise Biz Solutions @gmail. And you can reach out to me. We can have an initial consultation to talk about how I can assist you, or Utopian Enterprise can assist you in being able to draft your RFP. So again, until next live here, be strategic, make an impact in your community, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks, God willing.